I read somewhere that if you're in fear about something, the more you speak about it out loud, the less power it has over you. Sort of like you're speaking things away from existence. Does that make sense? Let's just call this like a good old update video. It's been a very difficult year. And if you're a close friend, you know exactly what's going on in my life. But I haven't spoken about this online. I've posted like half cryptic cry for help stories on Instagram, but nothing too obvious. Haven't spoken about this explicitly until now, I guess. So earlier this year, my dad was diagnosed with ILD, which stands for interstitial lung disease. This started not too long ago, around Christmas 2022, where we got my dad admitted at the hospital because he had fever, just fever. Few days in, the doctors were not able to figure out what was going on, and very quickly he was put on oxygen support. And over the course of the following 2 months, his lungs saw excessive scarring and they were pretty much unable to breathe on their own. He was required to be put on ventilator and ECMO, advanced life support. Now, usually in a situation like this, a lung transplant is pretty much your only way out. And for those of you that may not know, a lung transplant is a huge lifelong undertaking, not just on the financial front, but also on the physical and mental well-being of the patient, but also of everybody attending to that patient. And most patients know that they need a transplant years in advance. We only had a couple of weeks to prepare, and this was a decision that my mom, my brother, and we had to make this decision because my dad, the one who actually needed the transplant, he by this point was in the ICU, was physically there, but mentally not quite. So with no option left, on Feb 21, 2023, we airlifted my dad from a hospital in Bangalore to a hospital in Hyderabad because we wanted the transplant to be here in Hyderabad. They're sort of leading in that sense in the country. Upon reaching here, we put him on the recipient list for a set of new lungs, and only within 4 days, we received an organ. Thank the donor and the family. This usually takes months, sometimes years, to receive an organ. But in our case, since the condition was so bad, we were on very high priority. Now, I don't want to go into intricate detail because it's very taxing mentally to relive this whole experience, but Feb 27, 2023, the lung transplant took place. It was a successful surgery, successful operation. And from here, we spent another 2 months at the hospital before finally getting discharged in April, towards the end of April. By this point, we have spent the entire year at the hospital and then some. So about 120 days until that point. Now, it doesn't end there. A post-transplant life is often very turbulent. It's usually a year-long recovery process for most patients to get to like a decent stage of living in. Plus, you're on immunosuppression, can't really go out, you have to be masked up all the time. So to put it quite simply, you are very fragile, at least in your first year. And that brings us to present day. Dad's doing a whole lot better. Still powering through and fighting like it's nobody's business. I honestly do not know how he does it. We've been in Hyderabad 10 months now. Thought we'd be here for 3. We got a house on rent, pretty much started a whole new life. We dream of going back home to Bangalore like every month, but it just somehow keeps getting pushed. There's always something that keeps coming up. There's of course the usual checkups, but also we've had to face other unnecessary deviations. We've been admitted to the hospital about 20 times in the last 6 months. This is post-transplant. So about 3 times a month, which is once every 10 days. Now look, I feel very, very privileged and lucky to be in this position. We've had all the support from friends and family. It's unfortunate, I think about why this happened, and we don't really know why he had ILD and probably never will. So it feels a tiny bit unfair because my dad's never smoked. He's never showed any signs of a lung disease. He's the most disciplined person I know. And yet this somehow happened. And I guess I've come to terms with that now. So I feel privileged to be in this position because a lot of people don't even have the means for a transplant, which is a whole other discussion. Please get yourself health insurance, and especially for your parents. But I guess ultimately why I'm telling you all this, or how this impacts my life as a person in the creative industry, is that all of this has just left me feeling very creatively uninspired. Even little things like this bedroom, it's uninspiring. It has no sunlight coming in. The walls are pale and boring. The city, Hyderabad, it's a great city. But the mindset we came here in, it's just not allowed me to be creative. I always used to think when people said that they don't feel creatively inspired, I found it to be a cop-out answer. I thought that your inspiration should come from within. But after having the kind of year that I just had, I think I was just speaking from a place of extreme privilege. I realize now that it's not a level playing field. Not everybody has the mental bandwidth for creativity. A lot of people have responsibilities from home at a very young age, and most people are just trying to make ends meet. And I have a lot of empathy for that now. And to be honest, I had a decent year professionally as a cinematographer, all things considered. I opened the year with a gig for Aether. This was back in January, when I think like the first week of Jan, when things weren't so bad still. And then from Jan to May, I didn't take on any work because of how things were. And from May, I think I started shooting the Nikhil Kamath podcast, like the odd episode once a month. And then in between all this, I had my release, The Survivor, for which I was the cinematographer. It's my first OTT release as a DP. So a decent year professionally. But on a personal level, I do not feel fulfilled. I don't think I've done anything for myself creatively. I feel that starting YouTube again will make me feel some sense of fulfillment and also restore normalcy. This is the first time in a decade, in fact, where I've not published a YouTube video in the entire year. Well, hopefully I can get this one out before the new year. So in the first video on this channel, I spoke about my dream to shoot a feature-length movie. I want to shoot a movie. I want to shoot a proper feature-length movie, and how I would like to use this channel to sort of document my journey of getting there. The idea was to have a whole character arc of my professional career in its most authentic form, living on the internet, so to speak. And my mindset is still the same. I still want to do just that. I want to record weekly vlog style, I guess, realistic videos of a working cinematographer and whatever it means to be that, the ups and downs that come with that. And I feel things just got a whole lot more interesting. A lot of character development for me this year. Things are just a little bit harder for me now, but I'm genuinely pumped to take that on as a challenge and hopefully still show up and still do everything I would as if nothing changed. And hopefully some of you who are also trying to balance a creative life with personal struggles will find solace in the content I create. I literally just spoke about shooting a movie, and here we are literally doing the most opposite thing, i.e. shooting a commercial. I blame society and money for making me do this, for corrupting me. This is also the first time I'll be shooting with an RE Alexa Man, I'm literally so excited, and I only have 3 days to learn everything about this camera that I have no access to.